So how are the complexes colored in other ways? First we saw that presence of unpaired electrons is a very important condition. Then DD transitions, that's another condition which helps the transition elements to get colored complexes formed. Now the third reason will be formation of complexes with different geometry. You can see that cobalt nitrate will be reddish in color, but cobalt chloride, cobalt tetrachloride will not be reddish. It has a different color. Now why is this so? That we will soon see when we learn about the complex compounds in detail. Then there is also the formation of the charge transfer complexes. These charge transfer complexes are formed when the electrons of the atom of a ligand, following Laporte selection rules, will jump into an orbital of the central metal atom in the higher oxidation state. Now, what are these Laporte selection rules? They are the rules that permit only those transitions that conserve the parity of the complex with respect to center of symmetry, especially in octahedral complex compounds. Too many words which are becoming difficult to understand. We will see them individually a little later. So, what we saw was that if a complex is having an octahedral geometry, then it will be of a color which is different than another complex of the same metal ion in the same oxidation state but in a different geometry. So, we are seeing that COH2O6, that is hexaquo cobalt 3 plus complex ion, will have a different color than tetrachlorocobalt. Okay, now these charge transfer complexes which we were talking of, which are formed by donation of electrons from ligand to the metal atom or from metal atom to the ligand, they are called, here you can see, ligand metal charge transfer complex, LMCT, or MLCT, which is metal ligand charge transfer complex. Now we will see some of the complexes which are LMCT complexes, that is KMnO4, for example, a very common compound you see in the lab, copper sulfate, another one. These are all LMCT complexes where the ligand atoms donate electrons to the empty orbitals of the metal atom. Here it is copper and there it is Mn. Now, besides forming colored compounds, transition elements also are capable of forming alloys. Alloys basically are of two types, or we can study them in form of two groups. One is the ferrous alloys and the other is the non-ferrous alloys. As you can see from the name, the ferrous alloys will be having iron as an important component in them. The non-ferrous alloys have no iron in them. How then are alloys formed? Alloys are formed when in between the metal atoms, say for example iron, there can sit some small radii atoms or smaller atoms or atoms of smaller radii, for example of carbon, boron, hydrogen, nitrogen, in between these Fe atoms, and these are the interstitial voids. So, when these atoms get trapped in the holes in between the main atoms of the metal, then we call them as interstitial alloys. Now, these interstitial alloys have a large effect on the properties of the main metal. They are very useful in making, say, you can see here these cutlery. Then here steel is also used in making conveyor rollers. And how do they affect the property? We will soon see. Nichrome is one more ferrous alloy. You can know about it when you open electrical devices. You will see the nichrome wire or the nichrome metal in them. The next is that sometimes these alloys are also formed when they are, that is, the central metal atom can be replaced by another metal atom of the same transition element or by other elements of the p block, that is a metallic elements, if the atomic radii are similar. We'll soon come to it. Before that, let us see how transition metals are good conductors of heat and electricity. They form very good electrodes and they are used in cells and batteries. For example, the standard hydrogen electrode has got platinum as electrode, copper is a conducting wire, you can see here. Again, the Nicad batteries, which are made up of nickel and cadmium, they are used in many appliances. They have a longer life and so they can be used in the generation of electricity. Now, we told that the alloys, which we had studied earlier, that interstitial compounds, they can also be non-ferrous alloys, and when sometimes the transition metal atoms are having the same size as that of the other metal atom, maybe transition or maybe not, then these other metal atoms can easily replace some of the transition metal atoms in their crystal lattice. Let us see how. And they can form different alloys. For example, you see here that the zinc copper used in varying proportions are making up brass. Then zinc, copper, aluminium, manganese, again the proportions being fixed, they make up bronze. If phosphorus is added to this alloy, it becomes phosphorus bronze, and it's a very good corrosion resistant in seawater. So you can obviously find its applications in all the ships as well as in any instrument that will be used under seawater. Now, there is a gunmetal, something we use very common, and you might have heard very commonly being said in the house. They are also having uses in making these bushes. These are called bushes. Here the ship's propellers, you can see, made up of phosphorus bronze alloy, and the brass tubes are made for electrical machinery. Again, here we see the titanium element has a very good application in different ways. The different alloys of titanium are used in tooth implants. Then it is also used in making aeroplane parts such as fireproof bulkheads and exhaust shrouds. Then there is another element of tin, antimony and copper, and it is used in bearings due to its low measure of friction with steel. The alloy is called as Babbitt alloy. Here you can see how it is used in making the bearings. This is a shroud. You can see the shroud where it passes fresh air over hot exhaust pipes. The cold fresh air is allowed from the shroud inside and it cools the engine over here. Next, we will see how transition elements catalyze several reactions. The catalyzing property of transition metal atoms is attributed to the following. First, the metal surfaces can absorb molecules and atoms of other non-metal atoms. Remember, they are adsorbing, so this is a surface phenomena. The metal atoms have partially filled orbitals that can accept electrons from the reactants in a reaction and help them in orienting for fruitful collisions. These metal atoms can help in lowering the activation energy of the reactants. Metal atoms can also help the reactants by donating electrons to the reactant atoms and increases the possibility of the reaction between the reacting molecules. As you learn the kinetic theory, you will come to know about how orientation and lowering of energy of activation of the reactant molecules is very important for a collision to take place, resulting in a product. Yet, these catalysts never involve as any constituent of the product. They just facilitate the reaction by increasing the reaction rate. There is no permanent bond formed between the catalyst and the reactant molecules.